Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Culture Wave Media Network. If you guys haven't been here before, my name is Darian Scalamoni. I am the founder of this network, and what I'm here to tell you guys about is the multitude of things that we have for you guys on the YouTube channel. We have movie reviews. We have a new show that's starting soon. We have a new show called Real Drafters, which is all about mixing the element of a sports draft as well with film and television. We have tons of other stuff for you guys to check out. So please, if you guys are just checking us out for the first time, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It's right below. You guys can hit the bell for alerts. We have new stuff coming out basically every single day for you guys. As well, if you could hit like on the leave your comments below. Work on trying to expand our community and our audience. So anything you guys want to talk about in film and television, be sure to definitely check out this channel. We are the Culture Wave Media Network. You could find us at Culture Wave Media on YouTube. You could also find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're also on a ton of things on social media, so you can check that out at the description below. But right now, I just wanted to let you guys know that this video you guys are going to be watching is the review for Back to Black. And so I hope you guys enjoy that. And again, be sure to check out all the other stuff we have coming for you guys.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Cinema Wave podcast. Today, we are covering the newest biopic that came to theaters this past weekend. It is called Back to Black, which focuses on Amy Winehouse's life and music career. As always, I'm Liz Seiko. I am one of your hosts today, and I am joined by one of our newest Cinema Wave members, Meaghan Krantz.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, Meaghan, I'm so excited to talk about this today with you. So we're just going to kind of like dive right into the film right now. So like I said, for anybody that's listening, it's a biopic on Amy Winehouse's life, starting at like adolescence into adult life. It definitely focuses on her music career, her stardom, her relationship with fame, her love life, and addiction. We're going to be covering like spoilers, quote unquote, but I just feel like
Yeah,
if you know
she's a
about
person,
yeah,
you know?
like if you've ever heard of Amy Winehouse before,
Yeah,
you should know the spoilers.
she dies at the end.
Thank you.
know?
Yeah. And if you didn't know that, you should go Google Amy Winehouse or go see the movie or go see the documentary by A24 called Amy that came out in 2015. I think it's slightly superior to this film.
Yes, that's what I've heard as well.
Yes. So let's just get into our first like thoughts when you were coming out of the theater. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
I initially thought to myself, like, I was going into this thinking, like, I'm not a huge Amy Winehouse fan. I didn't particularly know a lot about her going into it.
Okay.
So I figured I'm going to learn a lot from this.
Yeah.
And I would say that I did, but I think there was definitely some parts that were missing. Like, I had questions as to why certain things went the way that they did. And I think Sam Taylor Johnson had a really big responsibility to do that and do it well. And also to, like, respect her story, especially since, like, she's gone now and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that she was greatly successful in that. We can get into it. But yeah, I would say I enjoyed it. I mean, I did enjoy all the music and everything, and the soundtrack was great, obviously, because it was all her stuff. And I had a fun time with it, but there was definitely some things I was still thinking about after and being like, I don't know. There's some things missing or just, not done well enough.
Yeah.
I'd say.
No, I totally agree. I had the same. So I went in with like very low expectations for this just based off the trailer. I wasn't super hyped about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. The trailer for me, trailers really bug me lately. I try not to watch them just because I think it gives me a sour taste sometimes going in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so for this one, it's not that the lead girl was who's the lead playing Amy?
Marisa Abela?
Yes.
I think it's how you say her last name.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think she did good. I think with what she was dealt. I don't think the script was super innovative or anything crazy. They came at a very basis line of a biopic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you know nothing, maybe you enjoyed it just because you learned a little bit about Amy Winehouse. But I think for the diehard fans, like I would say I'm not like a diehard fan, but I definitely was a fan of hers. I just was surprised. I felt like they did very surface level. It became very stereotypical, and they kind of made her seem just a little bit of like a love crazed girl who got in with the wrong guy. And I feel like Amy Winehouse is so much more than that. So slightly disappointed in the film. I did enjoy it though. There wasn't a moment where I was like bored.
Yeah.
Which kind of helps. Sometimes I feel like biopics, you start to get a little like, okay, I know what's going to happen.
Right.
But this one I was hoping that they would pull through. But I just think that they really didn't bring anything new or interesting to her story, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have to agree with that.
But what did you think of the lead actress who played Amy? Did you like her? Did you think she kind of like, what were your thoughts?
I think that she did a really great job, in my opinion, just because I was checking out some of Amy Winehouse, like her actual interviews, just how she, what her mannerisms really were like. And I think that, like Marisa Abela had it spot on. Like, I think that she did a really good job with that. And her voice is also amazing because that was her singing throughout the whole film.
I know, which I like. There was a moment where I was like, wait, are they dubbing right now?
Yeah.
Just for a split second. And then I was like, oh, wait, no. I was like, okay, she's singing, which she's great.
Agreed.
She's really good at it.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, I don't know, Amy Winehouse just has like a certain tone and sound to her.
Yeah.
That it's hard. It's hard to fully replicate that.
It's
like,
true.
Without,
what she was famous for. Yeah. It's like, it's hard to match exactly what she did because, I mean, that's why she is who she is. That's why she's so iconic now. But I also think that just like the casting in general, like she does look a lot like her, I would say.
Yeah.
As well. So I think for what it was, I think that it was like a good casting choice. And I think that she did what she could. And I'd say it was a pretty, I think she was probably the strongest part about the film.
I agree. Yeah. I think her casting saved it.
Yeah.
Even though like there's still, it's not like an incredible film, but it would have absolutely completely bombed if she wasn't able to either sing. I do think her dialect got a little annoying at times because she was like leaning on it too much.
Yeah.
But I mean, that happens when you're trying. I just think of like Austin Butler in like Elvis. Mm-hmm. Like all anybody talked about was his his accent for it. And I think that when you're imitating somebody or playing somebody who was a real person that had a heavy sound to their voice, you just lean on that as an actor to be like, okay, I don't really know what else to do besides sound like them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there was even moments where I didn't totally understand what she said either. Like I needed to be like, there was a lot of speaking too. Like it was like she said one thing and I had to kind of think about it and be like, what did she say? And then I was kind of losing what was happening right in front of me. So like,
you're like, where are the subtitles, please?
Exactly. So, that kind of lost me sometimes, but I just figured, it wasn't like hopefully that important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so did you know a lot about her backstory or not really?
No, I really only knew about her struggles with addiction and why she had passed away. That's really the only thing I went into or like knowing about her.
Yeah.
What about you?
I knew a little bit more so I knew that she kind of had like this on and off relationship with some guy. Mm-hmm. I didn't really know too much about him. I just knew that everybody kind of hated him that were fans of hers and were kind of like, he's kind of a loser who's like, I don't know, like living off of her and just kind of bringing her down. And I just don't know if I loved how they portrayed him in this film. Because for me, it felt a little bit like the director didn't want to have a solid opinion on him. Like they made him seem not horrible.
Yeah, he kind of came off as almost charming when you first
a little
meet him,
bit, right?
You know?
Which I get. I get that as like the lead male figure, you need to come off just like not a total asshole in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I just think they got wishy-washy with blaming him. Like they didn't want to blame him also almost for her drug addiction coming into play. And it just got like a little weird of being like, so is he a bad guy? Is he not a bad guy?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that there was a lot of runtime spent like on him and on their story. Like when they first met, I thought that ran a little too long, in my opinion.
Yeah, like when she's younger and they're meeting like in the bar for the first time. I agree.
Yeah.
Because they gave so much screen time and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, he's seeing somebody? You're like, what's happening? Yeah, I just feel like the script was a little bit, they needed to tighten it up.
I agree.
Especially in the beginning. Although I enjoyed the beginning. I liked how they started with her adolescence rather than, because I think a typical trope that biopics do is they start at the end and do like a quick snippet of like, oh, this is how they ended. Now let's jump back to the beginning of like how they got here.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad they didn't do that of having her like, I don't know, like strung out or just like very messed up and then flipping to her being younger. I like that right off the bat. They were like, this was Amy Winehouse when she was younger and how she got to where she was.
Yeah. I totally agree with that because I think, especially in the beginning, that was a sweet moment. Her like singing with her father. They're singing like he's singing a Frank Sinatra song with her, which ended up being actually something very personal to them that they definitely got right in this film. And I just think that they needed more of that because, like we were just saying, so much time was spent on Blake and the love story where there's actually so much more to her beginning of her career that kind of was just put on the back burner for this film, I would say, for the most part.
I think so.
Yeah, it was mostly about them, like about Blake and Amy, and not so much about how she started like her first album before Back to Black. Like there was nothing really addressed about that. Like it was kind of just in a throwaway line or two, like of her history before all of this. So I found that interesting is that this is the time that they just primarily chose to focus on, which I would say was very pivotal in her career, but I think at the same time it could have used maybe a little bit more. Just her story prior, really.
Yeah, or like even more of her family. I was gonna say that too because like I knew that her dad was very big in her life, but I don't really remember ever hearing anything about her mom. And so the fact that the first scene, one of the first scenes is her going home to her mom, and her mom, I don't know, what is her mom says something. She's like, oh, she's kind of like messing, like talking about her boyfriend. Amy's boyfriend, and is like, oh, but another boy's calling for you.
Yeah, he said he was your boyfriend.
Yeah, something like that, which shows, I don't know, that to me as an audience member, I take that as, okay, she knows things about her daughter's life, so she's present.
Right. But then she just
disappears.
She was not in the rest of the movie.
Literally disappears.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, okay, wait, what?
You're like, where's the mom in all of this? And then the final moment is like when Amy wins her Grammy, her mom's on stage.
Right? And I was thinking that, I was like, is that her? Is that the mom?
It's the mom.
Who is that?
Literally the whole time I was like, where is this woman coming from? And like, where is she in the in-between? Completely. It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
And so I wish that they had talked more about the dynamic of either her and her mom or her father and her mom's relationship.
Yes.
Because what did you think of that?
It was like in the very beginning, everything is like it's right after like the whole sequence where they're singing together and it's the extended family. They're all like musicians and they're all having a great time. And then she goes home with her dad, and all of a sudden they just start to get into an argument, and she just becomes really reactive and like, you're not gonna go say hi to mom, and she gets really mad, like just out of nowhere. Like their relationship seems awesome, and then they just start fighting.
Yeah, and
they don't really fight for the rest of the film either. So it kind of hints at a little bit of like, though there's a bit of, this tension there. There's some family history, assuming they're like her parents aren't together anymore, but maybe I'm wrong. I can't really tell. And then it wasn't addressed again. So that was like one of my questions by the end of the movie. I was still wondering about that. Like what?
Yeah, you're like, so what happened?
Yeah.
And then it also makes you think of, okay, so if her mother isn't a part of her life, like maybe does that correlate with her wanting to become a mother? Because she had that line of like, oh, I don't want to be a singer my whole life. I want to have kids. I want to be a wife. I want to get married. And I think if you're going to go that route as a writer and director, you need to give a little bit of insight on like what makes her want to go that way. And that to me means like show the relationship of her and her mom and her family background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they showed us a good amount of the grandma, which I appreciated.
Yes.
Like, those parts I loved.
I agree. I think that she was a really likable character, and she did a great job as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that really. And also seeing the person that kind of emulated Amy Winehouse's, like, iconic outfits and, like, her vibe. Because that was always something that I was like, does she just, like, always dress like this? Or, like, at what point did Amy all of a sudden decide? And so I like that they showed that it was her grandmother who influenced her in that, like her style.
Yes, with the beehive, like the very 60s
Oh my
inspired
God.
makeup.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, like that is another area where I think the film was really strong in, because the makeup and the costuming was really good.
I agree.
I definitely would say that. Yeah, I loved her hair in this movie. I thought that was a really sweet moment when they're like looking in the mirror and then they're talking about, you know, the history of the hairstyle and they're doing it. Like that was a really sweet moment. Yeah, probably one of my favorite parts, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah.
But then another point I just started thinking of, like, what else could they have brought in, is they never even talked about how the label or her manager felt about her image, kind of. Like, did they like that she was doing this beehive kind of like almost 60s like outfits or like pinup girl vibe, or did they want her to go more of a pop girly, like not like early 2000s Spice Girls outfit?
Exactly.
Instead, it was just like, no, Amy decided to do this and now we're going with it. And it was like, what were people's opinions on her?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, because she's very strongly opinionated about her image and is really, like, all the drama with Simon Fuller and like the label and everything like that. She really wanted to do her own thing. And that was very important in the beginning. And then, it starts to kind of fall off. We don't really see those characters anymore that were like involved with her like record label and everything like that. And like she didn't want to be a Spice Girl. That was the whole point.
She's like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That's just not what my image, like, I don't want to be that. And she didn't really want to be a pop star, but I think that's almost kind of like that's what they were trying to make her to be. So that's really my understanding of it. But I think that's something that is so unique about her, is that she just like was like, screw this. I have my own image and I'm going to embrace how I feel about it and not how someone else is trying to, you know, get me to
control me or like make me fit into the label, like what the label wants me to present to the world.
Yeah, like if people are gonna perceive me one way, like I'm gonna be the most authentic as I can.
Yeah,
because like that was authentic. Her lyrics and everything about her, she just craved authenticity, and that's what was so frustrating. I think that's where her frustration came from. Like, throughout the whole film. I
agree completely, and I think that's also my gripe with this of. It literally, actually, I didn't mind the beginning of half of the film. And then the moment that she went to New York, I think that the film just started getting very montagey and glazed over. Like, even all of a sudden, she was starting to, like, do heavy drugs. And they didn't even show her first experience of actually doing it, which is crazy. Like, to have the first half of her film be focused on Amy being like, no, I don't do drugs, I don't do drugs, I don't do drugs, but I drink. And then all of a sudden to just have a random shot of her like smoking crack for the first time. Yeah. You're like, what?
Very casually.
Very
too.
casual.
It's just like, wait.
Out of nowhere. It's like they literally had a montage of her walking around New York City, like in like her outfits. And then all of a sudden a guy walks in and she's smoking. And you're like, wait, what happened?
I totally, now that you bring that up, I had the same reaction.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, well, and because being is that we kind of know she goes down that route in real life, it's like, okay, but if I didn't know that, it was
you're
totally
shocked.
off-putting.
You're literally shocked. You're like, what is she doing? Like, why are we here all of a sudden?
Yeah.
And I just feel like they should have had that scene, that crucial scene of like, was she peer pressured into it by somebody? Did she choose it? Was she by herself? Was she with Blake, her ex-boyfriend? Like, who was that person? And I get it. There's a level of a biopic where you need everything to be like real or historically accurate. Right. And so maybe they didn't feel comfortable choosing like what that reason was, because maybe Amy has just never actually spoken and nobody knows.
No one knows. Yeah.
But I just also feel like it's a film at the end of the day. Like, have some creative abilities and just just give us a reason. Yeah. Give us a little bit of a stepping stone rather than all of a sudden throwing us into like her full addiction.
Because I think we can kind of have a bit of an understanding of she was struggling with this rise to fame because it happened really fast.
Yeah.
And she was a young person. So I think that she goes down this like self-destructive path in a way, because that's just kind of how she was really coping with all of that. So that does happen. And we can assume, yes, Blake definitely was I think a catalyst for that as well, just because he did introduce her to new things and stuff like that, and like more like hardcore drugs and stuff like that. Yeah. So we can kind of, being is that we can assume that, I feel like they easily could have just had a vulnerable moment, or a moment where we kind of felt more sympathy for her, rather than just throwing her into this, just like, yeah, like this story is just all about drugs and she's a drug addict, and like that's just it. And there's no moment where we feel sympathetic, or it wasn't very affectionate towards her struggles with addiction. It kind of was just happening, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think they did that, I guess, like respectfully or well.
I agree. I think I also saw it like all over just the reviews, and like people on Letterboxd are just
people
like
are mad.
They're very mad right now.
Yeah.
Which I agree. I think it was just kind of a wash of like, I saw this one review. I'm sorry. I wish I knew who posted it, but it was like, they definitely just Googled like Amy Winehouse, like quick facts. And it was like died from drugs. And they were like, okay, great. We're just going to make a movie about like her dying from a drug, like drugs and alcohol. And it was like, there is so much more to this woman than just her demise.
Exactly. It was more about her downfall rather than like her rise to fame.
Yeah.
And like how she got there in the first place. It was just, it was the downfall really.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people are so mad.
So mad about it.
I think I read that same review because someone said like literally I read her Wikipedia page and I got the same exact thing from the movie.
I love that. That's hysterical.
Yeah.
But it's true because it also falls into like, again, this kind of common thing that we're seeing with biopics where, especially ones about women, where it just is I like the film that I keep thinking of is, what was it, Blonde, about Marilyn Monroe, of how it was just like there was no point or justice for her in the film. It's literally just either sexualizing or kind of like blaming them of like, oh, Amy Winehouse got in it with the wrong guy.
Shouldn't have been with Blake.
Shouldn't have been with Blake. Yeah. Like she did this to herself, which again bothers me because it's like, Blake was a bad guy, and yes, he was. So like, show him that way. Don't make it like, oh, Amy loved him though, and she just was blind with love, because she really was. Like maybe she was. I don't know her personally, but I don't know. She was just such like a. She just wasn't like a sweet little girl. Like she had like a hard edge to her in life too. Yeah. So I just don't buy that she was so blinded by love that it led her down this path. Yeah. And I feel like that's the route that they went. And I don't know. I just didn't love the ending for it. I also think the actual ending, actually, I want to hear your thoughts first. What are your thoughts on like the actual ending of like the bird and her walking upstairs?
Very abrupt.
Right?
So like I was under the impression, because all we get is just like a title screen of just Amy Winehouse like passed away on this date. I think it was July 2011.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And it was like, this moment after she's singing to herself in the mirror, you know, we see the bird, she goes upstairs, and then it's just like, oh, like
she died.
She's dead. And I was convinced that the film was just going to end, because that's just kind of how it felt. And then she's performing at the end, and I was just like, no. It just felt really abrupt. It didn't feel right to me. Like
I agree.
They didn't. That's kind of an important part of her story, and they just kind of were like, you know, we can just have like 10 seconds of like black space and some text on the screen, and that'll do it.
That's literally what I think they said in their meeting. They were like, how do we wrap this up? They were like, just do a title card. Like it works.
People already know what happened.
People know.
No one cares about that part.
It's so messed up. But I was like very taken back by all of a sudden, like all of a sudden they show the bird, and I'm like, wait, why is this like getting like ending vibes right now? I'm like, what's happening? And then her slowly walking up the stairs. I was like, what is this? Like that she like, is this symbolizing that she like died by like going up to like white stairs?
Yeah, the stairway to heaven.
Like walking up the stairs with like bright white all around her.
Right. It was lit like
that. Yeah. Which I get it. If you're trying to go like the artsy way, I can kind of get on the boat with it, but then I think it needed more space and more air.
Totally. Like let us breathe.
Yeah.
We didn't get to feel what was happening. It kind of just happened.
Yeah, it was like, we don't have much more to say, so let's like wrap this up.
Yeah.
Like I wish that she had, I don't know, like instead of singing at herself in the mirror, like give her a guitar, like let her like want to like sing more. Because all she kept saying is she's like, I don't sing for the fame. She's like, I sing because I have to. So like show her that she has to sing in order to survive. But clearly that doesn't help her in the end. Yeah. Which I think is a way better ending than just like quick singing to yourself, bird, bye. Like,
and see, that kind of ending would actually provoke more of a sympathetic feeling, and you actually might have been feeling something by the end that you could comprehend, like you know how you're feeling. But instead, it's just kind of like we're given completely like these two different vibes, like back to back with these scenes. Well, really, it's actually kind of a lighthearted scene with the title card with the tragic news, and then we have another like musical performance at the end. Yeah, so it's kind of like that definitely was very jarring. It didn't sit right with me.
No, me either. And then I also think, because I don't know, the way that they worded it was, so she's outside before she comes back inside, and the paparazzi are like, oh, Blake has like a new wife or a new girlfriend and they're having a baby. And then that like leads her into walking upstairs, clearly upset about it. Right. And I just feel like that's a cop-out. Like, to say that she died just because of Blake.
Yeah, or like one thing a paparazzi said to her. Yeah. She would, like, there was so much in the press about Amy Winehouse. Like, she was grilled for everything that, like, she was going through. It was so publicized, and it, like, that's the one thing that drives her off the edge. Yeah. Yeah, like, it feels really lazy.
It just feels like, this was it, because she couldn't be with Blake. And I just don't get I don't know, I just don't buy it. And I think it was lazy writing. No offense to the writer. Actually, offense. Sorry. Sorry.
Wrote a better movie.
Wrote a better. And then it's like, okay, you sit through this whole biopic. You're like, yep, we're buying her as Amy Winehouse. We'll go on the ride. We'll go on the ride. The ending song, I think, should have been an actual clip of Amy Winehouse singing.
Yeah, that's
not her like doing her own rendition of it. Yeah. Because I just thought it was weird that they didn't have any cutbacks to real life footage of her.
I was expecting it too. Yeah. Because you're waiting. Really, what this film was supposed to do was supposed to do Amy Winehouse justice. Yeah. And also just to, like, remind us that why we're watching this film in the first place. So yeah, I think the actual real, like, the live footage of Amy Winehouse, the real footage, would have been a really nice touch. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's something simple they could have done.
They could have done. I thought they were going to do it. I was like, oh, here we go. I was like, they're going to do it. And then all of a sudden it was the actress, which she's not bad. It's just Amy Winehouse is such an icon to like emulate her actual sound. It's tough. Like, so I feel like that's a big conversation that I've had with some people too, of like biopics, especially about people that are in either a musician or related to music. Like, is it better to have the actor or actress sing and actually sing in real life? Or is it better to do the dubbing and have them just like mouth the wording, but have the dubbing be the actual person singing, like the actual. So I don't.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's tough. I mean, do you have a preference? Do you think?
I don't. That's a great question, and I don't know. I think it's a big responsibility, especially for the actress, to be able to portray her the right way.
Huge.
Yeah, and it's a risky game. I feel like if they can do it and they can do it well, it's one thing. I think that the tricky thing here is the fact that Amy Winehouse isn't alive anymore, so she has no say in literally any of this. I don't think that she would have liked this movie. I don't think that she would have liked that someone was acting as her. I actually think that a documentary, which is why I feel like the actual documentary that does exist, is a lot more well respected, because that's just a more classy way of doing it, I would say. And there's less risk involved, because it is more of it, it's like, it feels more like a narrative. It's a little bit more, it's kind of works like a fiction, so like you kind of, you feel like you're just watching a movie. You kind of forget that you are watching it, like something about Amy Winehouse, a real person. Yeah. I think that the dubbing is fine. I think I've officially decided I think that's probably the better way to go. Yeah. Especially being is the fact that she has no say. If the artist maybe has say and they talk with the people who are actually working on it.
And they're like, let them do it. Like, I don't need to.
That's different. Yeah. Because
I'm thinking of like other biopics. So like the Bob Marley One Love just came out a couple months ago. I think it was February. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they did a mix of both. I could be remembering it wrong, but I'm pretty sure they did a few songs dubbed over with the original recording, and then in certain scenes where it was more of him like writing the songs for the first time is the actor actually singing, which I didn't hate.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I didn't hate because it made it seem a little bit more real of like, okay, he's actually writing this and trying to figure out the melody as he goes. But I don't know, when they're in like the studio and they're actually singing those songs, like I want to hear the OG.
Yeah.
I want to hear the good, like the goods.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Come on.
Yeah.
Let me hear Amy Winehouse sing like Valerie. Although I did really enjoy, I thought that Marisa did an incredible job with the Grammy performance when she did Rehab. I actually thought that was very good.
I agree. That was the most fun I think I had too.
Yeah.
Like, during that part, like I actually felt myself like, because she's doing her whole like shimmy with her shoulders.
Yeah.
Like I was feeling that too.
I was too. I was like, okay. I was like, she's in it right now.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I think she's actually pretty spot on with the original. Like she must have just watched on repeat video after video of that performance, because she's pretty spot on with the movements.
Yes.
That Amy Winehouse actually did. Even the part when she actually won the Grammy.
It is spot on. Yeah. I watched it earlier and I was like, wow. Like,
yeah.
It was like the deer in headlights just kind of looked
like staring out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the mom also like on her arm, like that was literally spot on.
Yes.
Yeah. That was crazy. And that is something I do admire about the film, is they did get a lot of things very accurate. They did. Just like very like just minor details, like the way like her tattoos were spot on. And her bedroom, from what I can understand, from what I can see, is spot on as well. Like stuff like that. You know, that was really strong in most parts.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they actually gave. I agree with the tattoos. I think that's something that I enjoyed too, of giving a nod to that, because it was such like a big thing in her life that she like talked about too, of like, oh, I love my tattoos. Like, this is who I am. So I'm glad that they actually took the time in the film to like show her getting them and getting each one that meant something to her. Although I do think, so something you'll learn, Meaghan, is that I am picky with run times. And so for like this movie should have been under 2 hours, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
I don't think it needs to go over. I think they totally could have cut a little bit. Specifically in the beginning, there was just like a lot of repetition, I think, of like the same scenes happening in different ways. And I felt like they could have cut some things just to get a little bit of a shorter runtime. I don't think it was all needed.
I totally agree. I think I started to feel the runtime at some point as well. Because like we were saying earlier with everything with Blake, like that totally could have been cut shorter. Like everything with him could have been cut shorter. Yeah, I definitely agree that but there is actually one moment that was a little bit longer that I wanted to ask you about in particular, because it is when she's like practicing, she's like on the guitar and she is like writing her song like before one of her first gigs or something at one of like the clubs that she's performing at, and she is sitting there with her guitar and she's running through these lyrics, and it's just this slow dolly in for maybe like
I know which part you're talking about. Yeah.
And that was a really interesting part to me, and I haven't decided how like it felt to me. You know what I mean?
I kind of loved it. I loved the like slow dolly into her face, because you can see, I think that truly showed a moment of that Amy Winehouse was just an incredible writer, and that she didn't need like a writing room. She didn't need people to help her write her songs. She just sat there, and when she was in on it, she was good and zoned in and locked in and could write a incredible piece. And then I loved that they showed her kind of getting out of it and being like, ooh, what is the next word? Like, what am I going to sing next?
Yes.
Like that I really enjoyed.
That is authentic, and that's what they needed more of.
I wish they had just given her more room and given more grace in the script of her love for music. And like they kept talking about her constantly saying like, I don't need fame. I don't need to do this. Like I do this because it's the only thing that I know how to do.
I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And I just wish that they had given a little bit more like love to the music, not in a performance way. They kept like reinventing the iconic performances, but it's like, show us the background a little bit.
Right.
Like, show us the studio of
Mm-hmm.
her recording Valerie.
Yeah.
Rather than like performing it for like a random
Mhm.
audience
Like,
in a pub.
What was going on while she was writing these songs? What little stories were the inspirations for these songs?
Mhm.
Like, that is something I was thinking too. And yeah, that one we were talking about, I do think it was very strong. It's just so random to me, but I just feel like it just should have been lit better.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I was like, this is almost perfect, but it's not lit well. It was so, that was the only thing I was like, what is throwing me off? And I think that's what it was. Her room, like, the wall was very blank, and it just felt kind of, like, everything else around her felt kind of stale.
Mm.
And I don't know, yeah. Something about it just kind of threw me off.
Maybe.
But I do think just the effort of doing, like, that moment where it's just her and she's singing, like, they needed that.
They needed it to show who she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Have you looked at any of the like box office stuff that's happening? So
No.
domestic, it's not doing well. It's brought in its opening weekend 2.85 million, and the budget is said to have been 30 mil. So not doing great domestic. Overseas is definitely doing better, but I think that's because they had an earlier release. I want to say it came out like a month ago, maybe overseas.
Right.
And so like worldwide, they're at 39 mil. So they need to keep making money.
Yeah.
I think people might watch this, when it comes to like streaming.
Yeah, I agree. If it goes on Netflix or something, I can see
Yeah.
it maybe getting more.
I think it might go to
attention.
Prime.
Prime.
I don't know why. I just have that vibe.
Yeah,
It gives
me
me
a Prime vibe.
gives Prime vibe.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I just also think that word got out really early on this film that it wasn't super good. And so like people I think are passing on it in the theaters, which I don't think it's a horrible film. Even though we just like ripped it apart for I don't even know.
Pretty ruthless, but you know.
It's not boring in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I just think it's not a super, I don't know, when I think of a biopic, I think biopics when I was growing up in like the early 2000s just used to be these big, huge films that you wait for like 5 years for them to make. And like the actors spent their whole time like studying this person and working on them. And now it's like every week we see another biopic. And
most of them are not that great.
No, they're very mid. They're so mid right now. And I just like don't know what the industry needs help with of like how to get back on a better biopic train. I really don't know.
I was thinking the same thing because before we started recording, we were talking about how like when we went to like our theaters, like there was no one there,
literally no one.
Yeah, so it's like wow, and really no one cares to see this movie. Yeah.
And I don't think it's because nobody cares about Amy Winehouse. I think a ton of people are fans of hers.
Agreed.
But I do think that people were almost not like boycotting it completely, but I think people were kind of like, they're not going to do her justice. And so they're not going to support the film, which sucks. I do think you should support all films. I think you should go see them, make your own opinion of it.
I agree.
But I don't know. Biopics need to get better. I think they just need to give more time and like love and care to the person rather than trying to monopolize on their lives.
I agree. Like humanize them. Yeah. You know, because they are just another person at the end of the day. And I think that's what people want. That's what they want to see. They want there to be a little bit of that relatability, but you know, because you kind of can get that inside look into what was actually going on behind the scenes as they were, you know, rising to fame or whatever it was. Like that's in my opinion, like that's the point of a biopic, really, to learn about who they were, maybe things you didn't already know, but this gave us what we already knew.
I know.
So it was just kind of like, okay.
And you're like, I love her music, but 2 hours of my life.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other thoughts? What any other things that you want to talk about?
I had been reading up a little bit like on what people were saying about this movie. I think most people are just like, not fans, especially people who are fans of her. Yeah. They're not really fans of the fact that it was a lot of the movie had centered around her addiction, and they really didn't portray it very like thoughtfully or just respectfully. And she was described as being this like vulnerable, like fragile soul. Like I've heard people say sometimes, and it's like, what? Like she kind of was portrayed as kind of like just an unlikable jerk. I feel like through most of it, and I think that that's like, I mean, that's something I definitely noticed, and I think other people like on Letterboxd were all just like flaming this movie,
So
being
mad.
Like, why? Yeah, like why was she like just like we're perceiving her as just being this like awful person, like she was awful to her fans and stuff like that, but like she loved her fans, she loved everybody, but it's just like kind of, you know, I think that they definitely just could have done a better job in that way, just making it, you know, her not come off as like just this like bad person,
crazy like celebrity.
Yeah,
is I feel like what they showed her as.
Yeah, like she was so unreasonable, you know, like at least in the film, you know, like because and that's also what like the writing was lazy in certain parts where it was just like why is she reacting this way? What like why does she feel this way? Why did she write this song? Like like why? That's my biggest question. Is just why?
Why? Yeah, like why does she hit him so much? Like why do they show that? Like I think it was twice they showed that she hit him, and it's like. Okay, but like, why?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just like say, oh, she hit him and then like, that's that. Like, how boring.
Yeah. They really gloss over some very important details about her life and about her story with Blake and everything. So I think that's kind of just where there's so many questions by the end of it. And you're just like, oh, was she just like an unreasonable, like mean person? Yeah. Like, no, I didn't think so.
I didn't think so before, but
yeah, but now I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, you know.
And they also never showed anything about like her friendships or like that she had any other circle besides like her father and Blake.
There was one montage where she was hanging out with her friends, wasn't there? Like they were running around the city.
Yes, in the beginning.
Yeah. And I'm just realizing now, what happened? The same thing with the mom. What happened?
Where are these people?
Yeah.
Or if it's true that she kind of just like cut people out when she was working, like show that side of her being lonely.
Right.
I don't even think they showed that element of like the loneliness of it.
Yeah, I think that was also just another throwaway line of just how she was lonely and working and stuff. But it's like, okay, that's kind of, maybe people want to see that. Like, that's what I was saying before, with just like showing behind the scenes of what was really going on behind their, like what people could perceive and see of their career.
Yeah.
Like, that's why people are coming to see it, because they want to know something. They want to learn something new, you know, about their favorite artist.
Yeah.
But instead they get what they already know. And then they also get, you know, to see them being portrayed as someone they weren't, you know. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know if her family, like signed off on this at all, or if it was completely just created without their like hand in the mix.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that happens. Sometimes biopics are just made and like the family or the team isn't involved at all. And I think those films tend to fail.
I'm curious about that as well, because I think that it was on some level it was, you know, it's fairly personal too, just about her relationship with her dad and everything like that, and her nan. Like that was my favorite part. Yeah, everything, like anytime they were on screen together, you could just feel that their chemistry was so good and everything like that. So like that definitely felt the most authentic to me, I think, like throughout the whole film.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, should we get into our scores?
Yeah. Ooh, I haven't even thought about this.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Well, being is that I did enjoy this film to an extent. Like I didn't leave feeling like I was in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Or anything. Like I did, you know, I was bopping, it was a good time, for the most part, but I left thinking about some things maybe that could have been better. I think I would give it a 5.
Okay.
Right in that midpoint there.
Nice.
It was strong in certain areas, but it fell flat in the writing and the direction. I would say. Yeah.
So when I walked out of the theater, the first thing that I thought, I was like, oh my God, this is such a mid film. Like, and right away I was like 5. I was like,
oh my God,
5.
Yeah.
But I will say I want to give flowers where they're a little due. And I think the lead actress did well with the work that she had, and so I don't want to completely like rip it from her,
right?
Because she is a newer actor too. I don't really think I remember her from being when I was looking at her resume. I didn't really recognize, or actually no, she had like a random role in Barbie, I think.
Yes, that's right? What it was. Yeah.
I just don't remember seeing her in it.
One of the Barbies, I think.
One of the Barbies,
I guess.
So only for her, I'm going to bump it up to a. I don't want to say a 6, so I'm going to say a 5.9.
Okay. I think that is reasonable. I agree. I do think she did a really great job.
Yeah. I think she tried really hard. And she got to like 70% of the way being Amy Winehouse, but like the rest of the 30 is just like you can't be her.
You can't be her because you're not her.
You can't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. should have dubbed the lyrics and everything. And the songs and everything.
Just for a couple of them. Give us the original.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any final thoughts, or you think we covered everything?
I think that this is a conversation that is going to be continuing, like, probably after this is over, and also just like online. Yeah. There's so much to say, but no, I mean, I think we did cover a lot of bases here, and I mean, I definitely appreciate the effort, like, of making this film and everyone that was involved in it. But yeah, I think it fell a little flat.
Yeah. I think we covered most things. We gave our opinions. We talked about the film, definitely, of where it lacked. Yeah. I think that some of the strong points, I mean, it's really just the actors for me. I think that the actors really carried this film. Yeah. So credits to them. If you saw the film and you watched this whole episode, thank you, first of all. And please comment in the comments below of what you thought about the film. Let us know if you kind of agree with our thoughts, if you thought that it was a little mid and they focused way too much on her as like a negative person. Let us know what you wanted to see more of, or if you really enjoyed the film and you thought that it was a well done film, and what do we know? Let us know. And while you're commenting, please subscribe, hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 500 subscribers, so help us please get there. We're also on a ton of other platforms. You can follow us on Instagram at CinemaWave Media, and we're also there on TikTok and Threads at the same finding. And we're also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So please listen, please subscribe, and let us know what you thought of the film. Just signing off, I'm Liz Seiko.
I'm Meaghan Krantz.
And thank you.
This is The Culture.